Welcome to the Foil Life Podcast, where we talk about foiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy these great sports.
Yeah, they're a good company. We're just starting to get to know them a little bit more. Met Taylor last year when we went to AWSI. Great dude.
Yeah.
And Matt, our team member, it's hilarious because Frank rides, loves North, and Matt loves Duotone. So we always have this interesting inner dialogue between our team members and stuff. So many good companies out there producing awesome gear. We'll start off with that, but it's
definitely.
Duotone's definitely pushing some good stuff.
In the end, competition's good for everyone, you know, like when it comes to that sort of thing. I was riding, Duotone was North anyway for quite a while. So when I joined, it was North. So
true.
So I feel like I rode for North for half of my career and then Duotone for the other half, you know, but it's the same. It was the same company and the same people.
Yeah. You've been at this for a little while, man. Do you want to kind of walk us through a bit of those early days? I saw I think your first video on YouTube today and like your gap year video, that was pretty sick.
Yeah, I guess we started already. We're uploading something.
We're rolling. Yeah.
We're rolling. Okay. I guess my first video was quite a while ago. Eh? It was
20 years
in the day, back in the day, as they say now, and it was something that I always wanted to do. I didn't start filming at the same time I started kiting, but I always wanted to represent kiting well and show what was possible with kiteboarding, and it's pretty much started for me in my gap year, from going to university here in the UK and taking a year out and spending a whole year traveling, chasing the world tour at the time, riding freestyle, kiteboarding, and making videos and trying to kind of show people that it was possible. Actually, mostly inspired by the guys in Maui back in the day, from watching all the old windsurfing videos and the guys learning to kite surf on Kite Beach in Maui. So kind of the video side of things came from you guys.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Shout out to Maui Foil House here for a little studio while we're out here. But how did you even get interested in kiteboarding back then? Because I was pretty early on.
Yeah, initially my parents took me out of school when I think I was 8 years old or something like that, and my dad always wanted to go and windsurf Hookeeper in Maui, and then that was the beginning of the journey, really. So they took me out of school for a holiday to Maui, and we ended up there in '98, and it was sort of the time that, you know, Robbie and Flash and Lou and all the original OG kiters were learning and just playing around with Whippica Classics and like the first ever sort of, I guess, commercial inflatable kites. And that was where I saw it first. And my dad sort of bought, I don't know who bought the kite off, like Dave Naish or something, old school name, on the beach right there in Sprecklesville. And he just got straight on a 2-line kite and started learning. And that was where I first saw it. And that was where the idea was sort of seeded for me. So it was right at the start of the whole thing, really. So it was good.
Yeah, 100%. How was riding those 2 lines and those early days of kites? It must have been insane.
Yeah, it was. I remember every time you went out on a 2-line Whippica Classic, you kind of crossed yourself on the beach beforehand, because you never knew whether it was going to be your first and last session at the same time. It definitely wasn't as safe and as approachable as a sport as it is today, and you had to have a very innovation mindset that you were going to go out and just I remember it being a scary concept going for a kite surfing session, you know.
Looking back, did you see that progression move quickly, or how did that progression go? Because you got to see it almost from that beginning.
Yeah, it was an exciting place to be, right at the beginning of the sport, with so much energy from everybody in it. Like everybody that was doing it at the time was an innovator of sorts, and with a sort of progression mindset. So it really did progress quickly. You know, everybody was a dreamer, everybody was trying different things, and in many ways it's sort of what we've seen now in wing foiling and you know, the new mini kite wings that are coming out, and you can kind of see the enthusiasm for the development of these sort of crazy ideas, let's say, that sort of will eventually seed something new and a new direction for a sport. And kite surfing was very much like that at the beginning. You know, everybody trying different board shapes, different kite styles, different line lengths, different bars. So every session was seeing some sort of development, some sort of, rolling up the tips to kind of make it 4 lines, or, you know, riding pickle fork wakeboards, or trying boots or straps or strapless. It was like every session something had never been done before that was being tried. So it had that feeling about it of, constant change, which I think was appealing at the time. And it really felt like you were at the start of something that could become anything you wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like kind of complete freedom and untapped potential. That's pretty sick. When did, I guess, the idea get deeper into you actually wanting to sink more of your life into this? Was it just that gap year and stuff like that at uni, or when did the potential of turning pro go?
The gap year sort of turned into 3 pretty quickly. I can't say going back to university was my first priority at that point. I mean, I guess doing that much traveling and seeing different places in the world really opened my eyes to sort of the possibilities that were different to the possibilities that I had at home here on the Isle of Wight. And I think it just, at that age, at that time, and also having parents that were sort of open to the idea of doing something different in life really, seeded me on that path in a way. I mean, I still kept on with my, education and my typical path. Thanks to my mum, pretty much, that kept me going down that nice road for as long as I could. Or as long as I needed to. And then, I sort of, I guess it really started by me wanting to use kite surfing to travel and explore the world, and use that opportunity and that sport to explore, like I think pretty much since that day, I've almost, I've probably been on a handful of trips that I can count that haven't been to do with kite surfing. So like everything for me shifted in that direction, and that became my priority. So every trip was about going to a place that was good for kite surfing, or following an event or a competition, or going there for a reason. And when I decided to take a longer gap year and not go back to university, I used that opportunity to broker a deal with Boards and More, which was, North at the time. And because I had a few other sponsors beforehand, but I hadn't really, I wasn't at the age where it was appropriate to take it seriously, or, I didn't really kind of treat it seriously. But when I took time out of my education to do it, I treated it very much like an internship, essentially. And that was sort of when I started my video production company at that same time, and took it quite seriously from a competition standpoint as well. So it shifted from something I was really interested in, that I really enjoyed, into something that I would treat a bit more seriously and go towards and see where it went. I didn't have necessarily an end goal in mind. I just thought I would take it a bit more, seriously in my life.
And you've been with Boards and More ever since.
Yeah, so that was in 2005. So I guess it took, from essentially 99 or 2000 when I first got a kite in my hands to 5 years later when I met the Boards and More team out in Fuerteventura, coincidentally on the beach, and then ended up competing with them in the World Cup out there. And at that point, that was 2005, and that was my first entry onto the team. And with Sky Solback and Jaime, and some of the original boys.
Yeah, the OGs. Oh man, that's awesome. Did you kind of was that just a really big surprise that kind of hit you? Like, had you ever anticipated entering down this kind of path compared to traditionalism kind of thing?
No, like never really. I think it wasn't even in the conscious mind space at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd grown up as a young kid watching, R.I.P. and the Maui productions and Laird Hamilton doing crazy things on Jaws. So I had the vision that people were doing that. Yeah, but I didn't have the idea that it was a potential career or even a possibility when it came to something as a job. Like I guess outside of the system, there wasn't that opportunity painted in this country at all. So it really, I never headed towards it like it was going to be my full-time career initially until I kind of made that step to take it a bit more seriously.
Well, it's one of the, like, there aren't that many people, right, that are able to do this full time. There's so many different pieces that tie into it, financial and like, so how can you maybe tell us a little bit how you were able to put those pieces together? Is it a combination of a bunch of things?
Yeah, it was definitely a combination of a bunch of things and a bunch of people that helped me out along the way. Definitely my parents kind of, I guess, believing in the idea that I was shooting for, me being vocal about trying to do it and explaining it to people around me. And quite honestly, at that point, there was more prize money in competition. So like,
True.
when I moved from being British champion, so which I got junior champion and I got top flight champion, it was called at the time, which was sort of the adult champion. I was sort of hot on the heels of Aaron Hadlow at the time, who'd won it the year before. And he'd then moved on to the World Tour. So I had him sort of, literally a year in front of me paving the way. And he was sort of almost world champion, I think, by the time I moved from the UK onto the World Tour. So he gave up his school education a year earlier than me and progressed onto it. So then, yeah, once I moved on to the World Tour, there was prize money involved, and at every event I would sort of come, I started coming 7th, 5th, 3rd, podiuming in the odd event. And, to podium at that point, you would win, $2,000 or $3,000 and or more. And even at coming 7th, I remember winning, €1,000 or something for 7th place. So for me at that point, over 20 years ago, that was a decent amount of money in comparison. In comparison to today. So I kind of begged, borrowed, and stealed my way between events. Although I was flying around the world, I would find photographers like Toby Bromwich. He still does a lot of work within the industry and has done very well as a photographer within the industry. I remember finding out where he was staying and crashing on his couch and really like sleeping in cars and, just doing anything I could doing anything I could to save money and to make the prize money just go as far as it would. So for probably 3 or 4 years, I did the World Tour on a real budget, on a dime budget, and you wouldn't get the money until you performed, so you'd have to upfront invest the little money that I had saved at the time, and then it would either come back in prize money, and then or you would get you get the sponsor to match your prize money, so you would almost double the prize money, or you would broker some deal that said, if I make this effort and I do this, will you reimburse me afterwards? So it was kind of proving the point at the time that you were motivated enough to do it and to get there. It wasn't like there was no money up front. It was like you're putting everything on the line to kind of make this happen. That's what it felt like anyway.
Well, I think that guarantees some good results, I guess, for both, because you got a full commit, you got a full send, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta commit to it and believe in yourself to the point where you kind of were willing to lose everything at the time as well. And it just it worked out. I can't say I came top 10 in the world overall rankings, and then I didn't win the World Tour, but I did well, and I really enjoyed it, and I was definitely I became sort of embedded in the scene, I guess. And I got to know everybody, all the, at the time it was Hadlow, Lenton, myself, Tom Herbert, like some of the bigger, old school names that are still there today. So it was a good group of unique characters to know and to be part of. So it kind of set me well in the industry, definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's talk a bit about your video production, where you get your kind of creative, and they're just fun videos to watch. They're just creative. Has it always been there, or is that something that kind of came naturally as you were progressing?
Well, like I explained, I guess my original motivation was from watching videos, and at the beginning that was VHS, right? So I had to wait 2 years to get a VHS tape from Maui that had been filmed 2 or 3 years earlier. So you were watching old news, but those were the things that really inspired me. And I guess that, went through snowboard movies and, all the industries that had a backbone in, creative riders making video projects and putting them out as movies. The combination of music and the creativity and the sort of the storytelling behind it always, inspired me. And when I came to kiting, it felt like kite surfing was a blank canvas and no one was doing it. No one was making movies. Everybody was hustling to try and make events happen or, try and, actually just, make it work, I guess. So for me, the logical step was to make a movie or to, start on that, in that train of thinking to get to a point where I can make a movie about kiting and about my life in kiting, and then it was a big progress from building myself up in competition to a point where I could pitch to brands and sponsors and say, look, I want to take a year out and make a movie. So that was where the Freeride project started, and I partnered up with James Boulding, Sam Light, and Aaron Hadlow, and we spent a whole year making a movie. That was in 2011.
Oh no way!
Released in 2012. It's like 45 minutes, a whole year of filming. And at that point, we were like, you had to rent a helicopter to film for an hour, and to get a couple of drone shots. So it was like it was a bigger deal. So yeah, my original inspiration was behind video, and that for me, that was the method of showing it to other people, and that was my vision for the sport.
And what's that called? It was like Court on. What was that name?
Well, no, so then you've got the evolution of what's happened in video, right? Which includes the distribution of today. So, at that point in 2011, the internet was a lot smaller than it is now. I think YouTube, had just begun. It wasn't the same platform that it is now. And so it was much more about movies and long form production, and you could tell as a producer that everybody's attention span was getting shorter, and the media was getting smaller and smaller, and everything was drifting towards an internet distribution. But that meant less people were making movies, so that's where I started. And then now, Caught in the Act is my sort of vlog series that is on my YouTube channel. And I can't remember when I shifted from movie production into like vlog style output. It was probably about 10 years ago now. But yeah, Caught in the Act is my vlog series, which is a lot more ad hoc. Film what happens in the day, make the mission out of it, tell the story, and then get it out there. And I try and put out 10 minutes a week of like adventure, lifestyle, and sports action. Just doing fun things, really. Any
highlights of some of the top places that you've been around the world, or some of the fun or most craziest adventures?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing where it's led me in terms of, I mean, kite surfing as a whole, and generally water sports has taken me all around the world, and then now I've got my vlog series, which takes me all over the place as well. I've literally just come back from Honduras, visiting a place called Camp Bay Lodge on the island of Rotan, and I got invited out there to go and create content there and make some vlogs on the island, exploring the place where no one's really kiting, and kite surfing with sharks, and like doing doing crazy things that, it's hard to get the opportunity to do. And, all of that comes off the back of being creative and putting out content and telling the story of what's possible with kite surfing, which kind of is still the reason why I got into it, So, I've kind of tried to stay true to what I really enjoy doing. I can't say I fully enjoy or have worked out the vlogging format yet, because it's so ad hoc and so spontaneous that it has definitely affected the cinematic production, because I would say, normally you would consider a video for 2 or 3 months at least, like back in the day, and then now I'm putting 10 minutes out a week. So a 10-minute considered movie is quite a considerable production when you take it into account, and a 10-minute vlog is something that you got to just rattle out and sort of skip a bunch of processes in order to get it out there, but still retain the storytelling and the info and the and the fun behind it.
Yeah, I guess it's a mixture of quick decisions. And I see what you're saying. It is a little bit different though than a long drawn out process that you would do. Our good friend who does our audio mastering, he's a videographer, and he takes a long time to go through absolutely everything meticulous and break stuff down. So I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, it's just a different art form.
It's something I really struggled with initially, because obviously, like I mentioned, like my background was much more in the mindset of making movies and making, and really considering each shot. So like you'd get to a spot, that's one reason why I got heavily into kite surfing, park and rails and kickers, because cinematically it was a really nice thing to film, because you'd have a kicker, you'd know exactly the trajectory of the trick that you were going to do, and you'd understand the shot, and then you could frame it nicely, and it was really something that was a bit like skateboarding when it came to filming a video, whereas now filming a big air kite video is so crazy in terms of like your framing, because the tricks are massive. You don't know where anyone's going to go exactly. You don't know how high it's going to be. You've got to get the kite in. There's so much to consider. Whereas like initially when we got into wake style, it was much more like urban, and you could frame everything. And from a filmic sense, it was very nice to capture. And kiting's such an expressive freeride sport that there's so many different genres just in the riding, let alone in the filming. So it was it's been an evolution for me to like as a focus to film. It's definitely pushes you in lots of different directions.
Here, let's talk a little bit about your TV appearance in the UK, because I watched that one. That was pretty sick too. Just how you were able to kind of introduce kiting at that's a pretty special moment.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to another major passion of mine as well is to take kiting into the more mainstream direction, especially here in the UK, because I feel that, like again, moving back to the States and to Hawaii, you guys have such a good history and a tradition of supporting innovation when it comes to water sports and, athletes getting involved in it. There's so many, like, in fact, almost all of the watermen legends from back in the day coming out of Maui and Hawaii. And it's been a passion of mine to take kite surfing to the mainstream more here in the UK, and to explain to people how good it is for you, for you and for the fitness and mental health, and just how great it is to do. So getting invited to what was it, Sunday, Good Morning Britain. Was it Good Morning Britain or Sunday Lunch or something like that, but on mainstream TV here, to introduce kite surfing to the nation and talk a little bit about the Olympics before it was in the Olympics, to just bring it to people and bring the dynamic of kite surfing to people here in the UK was a great honor, and just being in that environment on mainstream TV and becoming a bit of a personality in that level here in the UK has been it was a great honor really for me, and something I've always been passionate about.
Anybody who's blessed with actually finding a sport or a career or anything that they absolutely love, it's always an honor to be able to add whatever you can to it. So like countless people have found it and it's completely changed their lives. So it's pretty cool that you're able to do that. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the amount of people I've seen change their lives through kite surfing is quite astonishing, really. And I don't know that many other. Yeah, I'm obviously I've been involved in kite surfing for a long time, but I don't know that many other things that have such a profound impact on, where you could live, or what priorities you put for first in your life. Whether that like before you know it, you're training your secretary to read the wind forecast.
Yeah, I hear you. We have a doctor buddy of ours in Canada who we ride with, John Vu, and he's been able to organize his schedule now to be around the wind forecast because he would always be there in Lake Ontario. It's pretty sick. But yeah, you just kind of organize yourself around it. How was this recent project? Because people can go over to your YouTube channel and check out your recent one that you just finished filming. How was it, like kiting with sharks, or looking at, because you guys were doing what, wake foiling with alligators too, or something? Tow foiling with alligators?
Yeah, I did tow foiling through mangrove in the middle of Rotan Island, and
holy shit.
Yeah, they were mentioning crocodiles the whole time, and I was like, "There's no way, like we wouldn't be here if there was crocodiles." But it was pretty infested, or alive, let's say, waters. With everything, I couldn't believe the sharks. They were everywhere. They were only nurse sharks. They were pretty mellow and very friendly. Yeah, no bull sharks, but some of them were like 2.5 meters. They're decent size, but they're just the water was just alive. And for me, like, a lot of kite surfing is about being in nature. As a sport, you learn a lot from kiting. You really feel what's around you. You understand the wind. You feel what's going on. So, like, for me, being in nature, surrounded by animals and just being involved in it, for me, that's the fun of it. A lot of the fun of kite surfing.
Yeah, just being kind of lost in the wilderness and propelled into, it's crazy how interconnected you have to become just to sense forecasts or see if the wind's going to die. And I think it only makes us better people. Oh.
Yeah, it's a sense that's grown on me over the years, and especially as I've learned more and more sports, like, with wing foiling and all the things, with hydrofoiling especially, and also paragliding. I do a bit of flying, and the bigger your portfolio of these things are that you do, the more you understand about the world around you, about the environment around you, and the weather, and the more keen you are on the forecasting, and you all of a sudden, especially with flying, you start looking at different heights of wind forecasts. So then you're looking at the strata of the wind, and you start looking at the birds and more than just the leaves rustling, and you start you come to this very visceral understanding of your environment, and over the years as well, you notice change in it a lot more. So I'm quite passionate about using sport not only as something that's good for your mental health and your physical health, but also as education of the environment, because I think that's, unless you use your environment to have fun in, you're a lot less likely to make change that's going to be meaningful in your life when it comes to sort of protecting it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you're creating an environment where you love being in. So clearly you're going to want to do the best that you can to maintain that. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool, man.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are disconnected from their environment increasingly, and I think, kite surfing has a big power to just put it in your hands, right? And
literally,
more literally put it in your hands, like life behind bars. But like one of my latest video projects that's not out yet, but will be coming out on the Duotone YouTube channel soon, is with Lewis Crathen here in the UK, and sort of tying to the concept Blue range of production that we're doing now, and it's all about that, going into schools here in the UK, talking to kids about kite surfing and interacting with their environment, and showing them the kites and in the playground, and even letting them fly the kites right there and then, and just tying it to wind energy and how these things can make, how small things can make big changes. So it's a great vehicle for just engaging people and really really bringing positives in almost every way.
And that's a cool project they're doing, right? Like it's the can you maybe introduce that a little bit as to what that, because I know they're using no dyes and they're doing all this kind of cool stuff there to be as eco-friendly as they possibly can.
Yeah, Concept Blue is sort of, a construction-based concept with inside the Duotone range, and it's basically the same models of kites with the same designs, but using and evolving construction techniques towards a sustainable method, a more sustainable method. I mean, as we all know, it's easy to say things are green and sustainable, but it's very difficult for them actually to be. So it's not a claim that it's 100% sustainable. It's just, it's a project to move towards sustainability when it comes to reducing chemicals used in coloration, putting partially and fully recycled plastic parts on all the clips, and a bio-based bladder in the leading edge, and just trying to I think reduce the impact that making kites every season has in terms of a material effect. So, as more and more people kind of move in that direction, or more and more customers choose it, and choose that line and buy into it, then essentially you're supporting the move towards a sustainable era of construction, and allowing Duotone and us to invest in that direction, really. So it's kind of like everything driven by the consumer to an extent, but what we're trying to do is not make an effect on the performance of the product itself.
Yeah, no, that's fair. How was your switch into wing foiling? Obviously, you're still kiting now, but how is that? And which do you prefer riding on a day, or is it both the same?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm like a free rider to my core, really, and I guess I love all of these sports. I have to admit, though, when I did start wing foiling, there was a period of intense hate at the beginning, or intense loathing for winging, especially after coming from kite surfing, where a kite is essentially, especially as long as I've been doing it, a kite feels like a superpower. You can jump 30 meters, or you can send it in a storm. You can there's so much you can do with a kite. You can foil, you can twin tip, you can surf, you can do all of that. So coming from having essentially a mastery of that into wing foiling was a very frustrating process, I'm not going to lie. And but it brought me closer to the reason why I do all of these sports, and that is to learn. And I guess to an extent, my learning in kite surfing had slowed down or evolved into like learning different disciplines, appreciating big waves, appreciating foiling, long distance. I've done a lot of like long distance foiling around islands and challenges in that regard with kiting as well. And then learning to wing foil just brought me really close to the learning process again, and right back to square one, and like kind of getting back into the fact that the realization that learning is the important and enjoyable part of all of these things, and when you max yourself out at world level in competition, and at one point, I'm doing double handle passes and all these things, and I'm kind of push myself to the physical limit at that age. After that, could be very easy to kind of think, right, I've done it now, and then you could drop off the edge of your passion side of things, because you've peaked to an extent. But there's always another avenue to learn, and wing foiling just brought me straight back into that. And I think a lot of people are on that same learning journey, and it's important to understand that learning is the real core enjoyment of these things. It's not about getting to be the best all the time, because after you've been the best, it's a downward slope from there.
I like that, because I teach a little bit out in Canada and stuff, and that's one thing that I make sure to try to tell people is to slow down that, enjoy the learning process as much as they can, because there's so many facets to foiling. There's so many different things you can do. Do you have any kind of idea of where you think the next thing is going after pair wing, or what do you think of pair wings? Let's start there.
Well, I think wing foiling hasn't really got to its full potential yet. So I mean, it's difficult to comment on para wing. I mean, at the moment I call it kite bagging. So it's
Yeah.
I'm still bagging on it really, but it will be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, the potential is unbridled, if you excuse the pun, but it's yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's been amazing to be part of and to see how hydrofoiling in general has revolutionized the whole water sports industry. And I've gone from, the Sail GP paddocks in Dubai to electric hydrofoil races to wing foil events to, downwinding to, I've kind of dipped a toe in all of it. So like the whole innovation side of hydrofoiling has been absolutely across the board, almost further than kite surfing. Kite surfing innovated a lot within itself over the years, and it touched on other things, like the kite touched on a lot of things, but hydrofoiling has touched on so many things. And just to understand how to ride the ocean, to get the energy from underneath the surface, you get ground effect on a plane, you get surface effect on a foil, and to really master that is a whole nother journey. You see the guys doing it downwinding with nothing between islands in Hawaii, and you're like, 10 years ago that was a dream. It would have been a hallucination. Nobody would have believed it.
Well, yeah, I ran into Kane and Gabrielle there the other day, Gabriella here, and then they had just finished because it's been pretty windy. So they had a couple epic runs this week, and definitely a lot of skill and a lot of training and stuff goes into that. What's next for you in the whole industry? Are you
in the whole industry? Well, I mean, that's difficult to say. Obviously, something moving forwards. I guess I'm learning as much as I can in terms of the hydrofoiling side of things. Just getting deep into it with the downwinding. I've got a para wing hopefully coming soon. The new Duotone para wing's coming out.
Oh, sick!
So everybody's jumping into it. So it's hard to know where to go next. For me, obviously, representing it in the best way is where I would like to go forward, and bringing it to people in a more mainstream way, and communicating these sports how they need to be to bring it to people that don't do it yet, and encouraging people to try it. I think that's where I stand on it all, and I just believe in the future of these things.
That's fair. So what kind of advice would you give a young person just looking into one of these sports? I guess they can turn their life around, or they can open their lives to something. But is there something you would want to, as we wrap up here, push off to all of those new kids that are getting to so many new wing foilers? They're like 10, 11 years old now. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the best advice that I could probably give is just to enjoy it. I think, if you put too much pressure on yourself from an early age, it's very easy to lose the fun in what you're doing. Like if, I see more and more kids wanting to get into it from a perspective of becoming a pro, or, making it their career. And, it's not a bad thing to have that in your mind. And it's amazing that that's even a possibility now. But it can put pressure on you to perform, and you can peak yourself pretty quickly into a sort of unenjoyable race to the top if you're not careful. So I think just having an open mind to it all, and really kind of leaning towards the things that you enjoy with it, and enjoying your time on the water without too much pressure. For me, that will lead to longevity and your enjoyment of the overall sport. And for me, that's been the basis of my longevity in the industry. Definitely has been linked to my enjoyment and moving in the directions that I think are, logical and relevant to progress. So I think, it's not always about chasing that top podium spot. It's about finding where you fit and where you enjoy. I think that's a good tip.
And your dad's still into water sports too?
Yeah, well, that's my next journey has been to take my dad away on a few trips and to do some missions with him. We did the Dakhla Downwind Challenge last year, which is like 500 kilometers, 5 days in the desert downwind, from Dakhla to Mauritania, to the border of Mauritania, through the sort of military zone in the Western Sahara. And that was insane. My dad's 67 this year, so he's still pushing it, doing 7.5-hour stints on the water, sleeping in the desert with me. Yeah. So, and he came to Honduras as well, actually. So we're doing more and more, and I think that's a key message too. Is if you love what you do, you can do it for a long time. And in my career, I've seen world champions come and go in the same year, and I've seen people, adopt into the industry and make a very progressive and fun career out of it. Riders like Ruben, for example, and Aaron are still here today, and myself and Sam Light, and everybody, a lot of my peers are still doing things in the industry. So it is possible, but I think to an extent you have to do it for the love.
Yeah, that's what my neighbor also said, who's been windsurfing since, I don't know, probably 40 years. He just turned 65 or something. And he's into freestyle windsurfing now. He's like, I can't go into those massive waves like I used to, but I have to land a few more tricks before I retire this windsurf sail. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah. I think you become increasingly aware as you get older that, every session's a good session, right?
True.
It's nice to have, it's nice to have those sessions.
Well, hey man, thanks for taking the time. I know it's fairly early morning for you, but thanks for taking the time to come and chat with us. And it's been great getting to know you a bit more.
Yeah, mate. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast, and I'm always stoked to get out there and put out there the joy of the sport and our industry that we've got going on here. It's good.
Sweet, man. For those at home who are just getting to know you, what's the best way for them to follow you?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Caught in the Act on Instagram, COURT in the Act. Obviously, it's a pun on my name for those of you that don't get it, because I get a lot of messages about spelling that wrong.
Really?
And yeah. Puns aren't too popular.
That's hilarious.
And then, on YouTube as well. Tom Caught Kite on YouTube for videos every week, from e-foiling, racing e-foils to wing foiling to kite surfing to surfing. A bit of everything on there, really. So, yeah, hit me up on YouTube.
Sick. Well, a little shout out to your sponsors then. And looking forward to seeing this Duotone pair wing. I think Ken's figured out a few things. I haven't seen it yet.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, Duotone are amazing with keeping on top of things, and we've always got, they're always onto the next toy that we can all enjoy. And I mean, I think it's important. All the brands that I ride for actually are very similar in that mindset and attitude, that they're doing it for the right reasons, and they're making the best kit that they can for the sports that we all love doing. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be involved.
Have you met Ken in person?
Yeah. I've actually pulled up to his house. I pulled up to his house in Australia back in the day, and my car backfired oil all over his driveway, and I think it was a bad start to our friendship.
I met him for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and because I'm friends with Alan Cadiz out here, and so he introduced me to Ken. And it just showed up, this big guy and just massive shoulders. So I was like, fuck, I got to start hitting shoulders twice a week now just to catch up with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's an amazing guy. He's had an amazing life and design career as well, and he's still on it. So
he's still kicking it.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks a lot for joining. And man, looking forward to chatting soon.
Yeah, speak soon. Thanks for your time. And big up, everyone.
All right, bye, everybody.